All right, everybody, welcome to episode number 64 of Fresh Mondays podcast.
Yes, we are back. And last week we had a great conversation. I think, and we don't like to say favorites. Everyone's our favorite. Everyone is on top 10 or top 5 on MySpace for us. We love everyone. But we had a very intriguing conversation with Aubrey from 365 Meaningful Conversations based out of here in Seattle. And I'm ready to sign up to go join to really check it out.
Yeah, for sure. We can't wait until you actually attend and tell us what the experience was like to go into a place where they give you actual options of what kind of conversations you would like to be in and the questions and all that. Just listen to the last episode, guys. It'll make a lot more sense because then you'll realize what it is that we're talking about. This young lady, she kind of created a platform for people to communicate freely and to, break the ice for you. Really cool.
Yeah, and it gives a lot more easier way to kind of make those conversations kind of smoothly when you have prompted questions. Great conversation, great business, a great plan. And so we love seeing women doing things like that, where almost like that Shark Tank effect, where, wow, where didn't I think about that?
Right.
Where was I when that was happening? Or, the simple things. So awesome. Thank you again to Aubrey for being a part of the show. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. And for those of you who have any other really awesome friends that you want to recommend, we've been really fortunate lately that even people have been recommending people to be on the podcast and saying, hey, this might be a great conversation. You should bring them on. They've done this or that. Make sure to hit us up and just contact us at Fresh Mondays Podcast on Instagram or email us at freshmondayspodcast@gmail.com. We love your suggestions and we'll see if we can have them on the show.
Yes. And tell us about today's episode, or today's guest, for the show.
Yes. Today is pretty cool because we have another female awesome boss that's going to talk about some awesome female things. She's actually a ex-professional basketball player who used to play overseas. Really cool. She used to play for the University of Texas, so shout out to Texas. I know that when people go to universities and your team is like everything, so I'm sure whoever's listening in Texas from the University of Texas, you got one of your alumni here.
And in theme that it's March Madness, so we are in college basketball deepness right now. So that goes hand in hand. Still in March Madness.
Yes, absolutely. Really cool. And for those of you who've ever had a friend or know someone who's played overseas, it's pretty interesting to see how an American athlete gets to live in another country because of their skills. So that's pretty dope. Her name is Ashley. She actually is a sports tour director for a really cool company that's overseas, and we're going to learn all about it. We're going to bring her on the line, and we're going to hear from this powerhouse of a woman. So everybody, welcome Ashley to the podcast. Ashley, introduce yourself to the world and let everyone know who you are and what you do.
Hi, my name is Ashley Gayle, and I am a former basketball player. I'm not standing up right now, but I'm about 6'3", so I've been playing basketball for a very long time. I retired as of a few years ago, and now I'm the sports tour director for a company called New Zealand International Basketball Tours. We host sports tours for college teams and elite basketball teams to travel to New Zealand and Australia to play games, to explore new cultures. We've been doing this for a few years, and we've been working with top-level Division I schools. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm super inspired by you too because I'm going to be starting a podcast, and doing this is even more inspiration to keep planning and formatting. So this is very exciting.
And a nice little practice
cool
as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank
Yes,
you.
and the podcasting community sticks together. So we are excited, and we want you to let us know. We'll be more than happy to listen, share, and tell everybody when you're ready.
Very cool. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So tell us, how many times have you been to New Zealand and Australia, correct? Those are the 2 locations you go to? Mm-hmm. How many times have you been? And where are you located now, actually?
So right now I'm based in Miami. I've been living in Miami with my husband for about 1.5 years now. I actually lived in New Zealand for almost 2 years. And I travel back for the tours each year. So most recently I was in New Zealand for about 1.5 months last July to August before I came back. And then I've been fortunate enough to been to Australia quite a few times. And then during my professional playing career, I was there for a season playing in Sydney, which was my all-time favorite place that I've ever been to.
It just
How
seems so
cool.
far and so
Yeah.
like luxurious almost to like make it that far, the other side of the world. So that's why I asked, like, how many times have you been there?
Right.
Yeah.
That flight even just sounds exhausting.
Isn't it like 24 hours to get there?
It can be. It's about 18, depending on how your flights are set up. When I came back the last time, was it the last time? One of the times I came back, and it was about 26 hours of traveling because I had to stop. I flew from Auckland to Sydney. I flew from Christchurch to Sydney, Sydney to Auckland, Auckland to Honolulu. Had like a 6-hour layover. Flew from Honolulu to LAX, and then LAX to Vegas, which is where I'm from. So that was probably the most exhausting one. But typically, if you plan it out a little bit better than I did that time, it's usually about 18 hours. And as long as you keep the flights down to 1 or 2, you can fly like straight shot out of Houston or LAX, and it's 18 hours. But you just download movies and a few, albums and sleep
Right.
for a little bit. It's not as
Some
bad.
Benadryl.
Yeah. Yes. I feel a bit. Yes.
No, yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of, before you even got there, you mentioned you're from Vegas and you ended up playing overseas. Explain that to us. I know you played for the University of Texas. How is it that you tell us about being a female athlete and that whole journey of becoming a basketball player here in the States and then being able to play overseas, which is the dream? How did you get there?
So I've been playing basketball since like 5th grade. And there was a point probably in middle school where I started to play for like a travel team and started to realize that there was opportunities to go to college and have your college be paid for through basketball, through sports. So once I realized that and sat and like talked with my mom and realized, okay, this is going to kind of decide what high school I'm going to go to because of this ultimate goal of going to college without paying for it, basically. So that was always the goal, more so than I want to go to the WNBA or I want to be a professional basketball player. It's more how can I get college paid for? So I'm really lucky because some people's parents aren't quite as focused on education. So I went to University of Texas and played there for 4 years, and was fortunate enough at the end of my career there, was invited to the WNBA to trial out. So I was there for maybe a month before I was cut, which was an awesome experience. And then usually in the women's basketball world, there are players that are playing overseas, and then there are players that are playing in the WNBA. But for us, it's a little different than men's basketball where you have to play overseas, even if you're in the WNBA. So that's why our season here, when it comes to the WNBA, is in the summer. So it's really different compared to the NBA, which is running right now. It's going into playoffs, NCAAs, which is in playoffs and tournament play right now. For women, in order to make a living, you have to go overseas to play. So it's one of those things that even though I didn't make the WNBA team, I knew that was kind of like that's the next step for women's basketball players is, okay, you can't go to the D League because we don't have one. So you start looking for jobs overseas. You usually have an agent by that time. So I went to play in Bulgaria straight out of college. I was there for maybe like 9-ish months and played out there. And that's when, you transition from going to play in college and having basketball be your career. So that's a huge kind of a wake-up call, but it's also really cool that something you love has now become your career. So I played in Bulgaria for a year, and then I met my husband out in Bulgaria.
Oh, wow.
Which was always like a crazy story when I think about it now that it's been so long.
Like, because your husband's American too.
Yeah, so
right.
Whenever I tell people that, they think he's from Bulgaria or from some other country. But he's just from Orlando. He's from up the street. But yeah, so he had already been playing, and we met each other there. But basically finished out a year there. I really had a really, really good season, and went to Australia the following year. So I went to Sydney. played in Sydney. I came home. I went home to Vegas about December, a month before the season ended, just because my grandma was really sick, and so I just decided it's for the best for me to go home at this point. But yeah, it's crazy because I actually retired after that second year, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm done with it. Basketball's run its course. I majored in kinesiology in college with an emphasis on health promotion. So, and I always wanted to work in corporate health. So, had a couple jobs in Vegas and did personal training and worked for a startup for a little bit. Crazy story. The startup closed down. The business closed, and because of that, I ended up finding out that there was an open position at the job I actually wanted.
Nice.
In corporate healthcare, working for Cigna, doing health coaching with employees on the strip at casinos and things like that. So I did that for almost 2 years, and then another opportunity to play in New Zealand came up, and within a month I signed a contract and said, okay, we're moving to New Zealand. So that this is the second time I'm retiring, and it's officially the last time. I'm not going to play anymore. But it's been a really fun roller coaster of being able to travel. And I know that for a lot of people, they're like, why did you stop playing? But I've always wanted to be on the business end of things. So I love playing on the court, but I still like being involved with basketball. So yeah, it's cool to still kind of be around the game, but also kind of learn the other side of things.
What is it like to live in New Zealand? If that's where you live the most time, right? In your whole career.
The longest, yeah. So
yeah.
I loved it in New Zealand. The only thing about New Zealand was that it was just really, really cold. And I grew up in Vegas, went to school in Texas. I'm in Miami now, and my family's Jamaican. So we just love being in the heat. But as far as New Zealand as a country, as a culture, I love it, which is why I want teams to go there. It's such a rich culture and a very honest and genuine little island or two islands of people. And I'm really lucky that I was able to live in Christchurch and be able to work and coach and kind of coach all over the South Island. But it's just a different feel than living in America or even living in Sydney. And it's just a different vibe when it comes to the people because they're all very laid back and caring and welcoming. And, it's just it's an awesome place. So if you get a chance to go, you have to go at least once in your life.
It's definitely on the bucket list of things, of places to reach, in that when you talk about those hours though, I just think about going business class or first class because your girl need a stretch. I just imagine you being as tall as you are. I know you need a stretch.
Well, see, I've kind of figured out how to not pay for business class, but still be comfortable.
Work the system.
Travel,
show up.
Yeah. So usually, when you travel that far, especially when you're traveling overseas, even domestically in another country, a lot of times the flight attendants will see you and be like, "Oh, yeah, let me just hook you up." So
I like that.
And then usually if you get on the plane and you're in a bad seat, 9 times out of 10, a flight attendant is going to come over to you and say, hey,
let me help you.
Yeah, we got an empty seat in the front. Or when you go and check in, you just ask for, say, hey, can I have either the front row of seats? And so that's where the most room is because that's where the door is, the bathroom here, and the bathrooms are huge on those international flights. So you have all this huge gap of space. So as long as you're in that front row of economy, you're pretty much in a business class seat without paying for it.
I've learned that trick also, but I know for you for sure, it's just you walk up, they see you, and they're like, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
We believe that you need the leg room. We believe you, right?
Yeah, because you can't purchase that online.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can go around that. But it does seem like it's definitely a bucket list for myself and to go. And then I love hearing your story of how you took a break almost from that basketball and you were able to still have time and a chance to return back to it.
Yeah.
So that's great to know. And so with women's basketball, you were saying that it happens in the seasons kind of don't overlap each other so that women have those opportunities. Is that what you were saying?
Right. So, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not too sure if this was done purposefully when they started the WNBA, but the WNBA has always ran in the summertime.
Mhm.
And it makes the most sense because there's basically women get paid a lot more when they play in other countries. And as sad as that is, some of the top players, I think the top player in the WNBA is getting paid about 110,000, and that's Diana Taurasi. 110,000, and that's for a three or four time Olympian. She's won multiple WNBA championships. She went to UConn. I mean, this would be, and I hate to do the comparison, but to put it into perspective, this is like the LeBron, the Kobe of the women's game, and she's
Yeah.
getting
Right.
10 grand. This woman got paid to go play in another country. She got paid to actually sit out a season in the WNBA so that she was fresh for their season. So she got paid like 1.2 million, I think,
Wow.
fresher. But there's a lot of opportunity when it comes to building a solid career overseas. And you're able to kind of travel to different countries, or there's people that have played in the same country for the same team for 6 or 7 years. So it's a rite of passage, and there's a lot of men that play overseas too. There's a lot of women's volleyball players. Women's softball is starting to move to some Asian countries because they get paid really well over there. But when you're a female athlete, you're always having to kind of figure out kind of the back way on how to create a sustainable lifestyle, pretty much, where everybody knows for the guys you can go pro and you can stay here and play home and your family can watch you play. For a lot of us women, or for a lot of athletes that travel overseas, I was lucky to have my mom be able to come to Bulgaria for 2 weeks and see me play overseas as a professional. But that's pretty much it. Like, I've never been able to play in front of my entire family.
Yeah.
Those are things you have to give up, but in the long term, I think you get a bit more world experience when you have to travel and you get put in situations. Like when I was in Bulgaria and I showed up, nobody spoke English. So it was me and one other American player. Our entire team spoke Bulgarian. Our coach definitely didn't speak English. All he knew was yes, no, and beautiful Americans. That's all he knew.
Oh my God. So how do they coach you if there's a language barrier?
So we had a translator, but he didn't really know English either. So a lot of the back and forth with her was actually through Facebook. So Facebook is really big overseas. So we would go back and forth on Messenger, and she'd say, okay, practice tomorrow at 10 a.m. or practice tomorrow at 6 a.m., beach run at 9 a.m. And we'd figure out, okay, so we have our little tiny little Italian car and we just like drive over to the gym and then practice. So practice is going, and you start to use other social cues. So, drills pretty much are going to be the same, or you're going to be used to kind of figuring out how to run the drill.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to plays, 2, 3, once you start to know the numbers, you can figure out what plays you're running, what defense you're in. But then not knowing the language kind of comes into your advantage when like y'all are getting cussed out at the end of the game and you're just like, I don't really know what you're saying. But
That's
yeah.
so interesting. I mean, I wonder why, especially Americans, we're so into sports here. Like we're like really into it. And it's surprising that there isn't a lane for female athletes yet where there's high paying dollars and there's better endorsements and better. It's just like, it just seems like it should be there by now. I don't know if I'm not well versed, but it's just like it's a cash cow out here to be involved in sports. Why are we not providing more lucrative opportunities for female athletes? It's just, I don't understand it.
Yeah, and I think there's so many layers to peel off with that question. There's so many layers when it comes to female athletes and the sports that do get attention, and how attractive those particular sports are to the male gaze. And is the consumption just for the most part with women's basketball, we have super fans. Like that's the majority of the people that are going to come to those games. And with the college teams rake, like they sell out games often. Especially like the top 8 to 10 teams that are top in attendance, they're selling out games often. But that hasn't translated to the WNBA, which is built on, kind of using the fandom of certain players that have a big name and trying to pull in, as opposed to making it kind of advertising it to new people. So I would love to see, somebody know who Breanna Stewart is without having to look it up, similar to how somebody knows Kyrie Irving, but they may not understand what a 2-3 zone is. So trying to, for my opinion, I think it has a lot to do with marketing. I think it has a lot to do with, marketing. That's a huge part of it. And figuring out, I think there's a niche for everybody, and there's an area of profit that you can find for any type of business. It's just a matter of finding it. And, women's basketball and the WNBA particularly, I think it has a long way to go. They've done well the past few years, and they've increased like the views on Twitter as far as live streaming the games, which has been a new way to get people to come watch the games without being there. And that opens lanes for sponsorship and exposure and things like that. But I just think there's so far to go, and I'm never opposed to, for them to work with an NBA team, because that's kind of how the WNBA first started, is they were kind of pairing them up, as far as I know. And then they've gone away from that, and I think that takes away the potential to get some of those people that love going to the NBA games and might love a WNBA game, but they never know. They never know when the game is on and things like that. So there's a lot to be done, and I think just respect for women's sports, particularly women's sports that are dominated by men. So everybody loves the gymnastics and everybody loves the beach volleyball, because they're no shade to beach volleyball players. They're incredible athletes, but they're in, they're
half naked.
They're half naked. And so that's why they're able to take advantage of the sponsorship, because there's so many men watching, You look at the commercials run during those particular games, they're like Gillette shaving, and it's for men,
Right.
And I think it's hard, and there's a lot of stereotypes that come with playing women's basketball or playing women's softball or playing sports that are dominated by men.
Yeah.
And, it's crazy to me that people, even knowing that I play professional basketball and I've had a long career and like broken records and things like that, men will still come up to me and be like, "You can't beat me." Like, you, what? Because I am a female. That's it. Right. They never go up to my husband, who's about 6'9", 270, and say, "You can't beat me." That never happens. But it's always interesting that even if you look at some of the WNBA players on Twitter, the guys are still talking mess in the timelines, and I'm like, these are some of the greatest athletes in the world. But because you're a woman, you're seen as like, oh, there's women out there that are dunking. There's high school players, 14, 15-year-old girls that are out there dunking off of 2 feet in warm-ups. But guys will still look at it as, well, she's a girl. So that's another huge piece. Like, at some point, I'm not sure how we begin to tackle that, but just.
I mean, do you think that there should be a co-ed professional level of basketball?
There actually is, and it was started about a year or two ago by Master P. And so he started mixed gender basketball, I think it's called. And there's, I think, 4 or 5 teams. So Tiny Harris, T.I.'s wife, she owns a team. I think Trina owns a team. Master P owns a team, and there's one more owner. But it's WNBA players, NBA players, some overseas players sprinkled in. And they just started it, but they have a league that runs every year, and they travel. So and he's really big on saying, like, look, these women can play just as well as the men. Let's put them and give them an opportunity to succeed and to make money together. So that's a new wave that's kind of come along. So I'm hoping that it'll catch some traction and more teams will, start to be formed and stuff. But it's definitely needed, and things like even all-star games and stuff, I wish that they would just at least feature the women or involve them in some way.
I was just going to say, because WNBA doesn't have an all-star game, do they? Like how they have.
Yes, they have an all-star game, but again, it's in this weird part of the year. I think it's in end of August, beginning of September, where the just before the playoffs and stuff.
Gotcha.
So you have all the kids that are in school, and I'm big on getting kids to games because kids, once they see a game, they're hooked.
They're there all the time afterwards. Yeah.
Exactly. We'd have kids games. We'd have specific days when I was in college where we invite kids, and pretty much all schools, all colleges will do this, but they invited, 9 or 10 schools, and they made it kind of like a spirit competition. So all the kids would come all dressed up. And that was when we'd have like 5,000 people in the stadium because there was just a massive amount of kids going nuts. Like our ears would be ringing after the games because the kids were just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Great.
That's so cool.
Autographs. So yeah, I think there's just a lot of work to be done because, I kind of feel bad because some of the greater players are kind of aging out of the game and going into coaching or business. And some people will just never even know about them because they haven't had the exposure.
What about like girls who are afraid of being labeled as a lesbian because they think that boys are not going to like them because they're athletic, or, unfortunately the stigma is that girls that play ball are gay. Yeah. And we know that's not true. Like everyone can play ball. This has nothing to do with your sexuality. So like what kind of advice would you give a girl, since you were an athlete and you're married and you're heterosexual, like how do you combat that stereotype? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's okay to be feminine. Like I've seen you in person, I've hung out with you, and I've had the pleasure of doing that. And you're a very feminine girl. This girl be wearing heels, girl. Like you see, she's 6'4", Marley, she's wearing the heels. So
I'd be like, I'm 5 feet, 5'1", so you would have to sit in far distances from me. We're like, not be in this picture next to each other.
You just gotta wear like the 8-inch heels.
8-inch heels to catch up? No, I'd fall over.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. Like you're still feminine, even though you're an athlete.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good question. And that's something that I've even heard parents, like I've worked with people and I've heard parents say, I don't want my little girl to play softball because she might be gay. Like she might get turned out. Or I don't want my kid to play basketball. You better not be messing around with them basketball girls. And my perspective has always been, if you're gay, you're going to be gay, no matter what sport that you're involved in. If you're straight, you're going to be straight. Now people they experiment and but that to me is going to happen whether or not you're in basketball, or softball or whatever, whatever sport it is.
Any profession.
Any profession.
Right.
Exactly. But I think that for a little girl that's like looking at maybe playing basketball or maybe quitting the team because, well, a lot of the girls on the team are gay, so I don't want to be associated with them. You've got to have a confidence in yourself to know, I'm comfortable being around people that are different. That's the biggest piece, right? So if you yourself are uncomfortable around people that are different or people that are not like you, or maybe somebody that is sparking something in you that you've kind of been hiding because your parents may be homophobic or may not have any gay friends, and maybe being around this group of people has made you be more comfortable to be yourself. And that's scary. That's a scary thing for a kid in middle school or high school to go through. But it's just having a confidence in being yourself and understanding that there's nothing wrong with being gay. There's nothing wrong with being part of the LGBT community. And you can support them. You can stand next to somebody that's gay, and people are going to assume that you're gay. That's a thing that's going to happen. You just have to be comfortable enough in yourself to say, well, I'm not. You have your opinion. If that's what you think about me, then cool. Like I had football players coming up to me freshman year of college. Like I'm all excited and we're in class and they come up to me after school, after like a class. So you gay too? No, I'm not. Oh, you sure? But you're too. Well, yeah, she's gay, but I'm not. Like, you can either take it or you can leave it.
Yeah.
So you gotta build a little grit behind you to be able to get to that point. But ultimately, it's just people being nosy, because that's not something that you should be asking anybody anyways. And B, it's just being comfortable with who you are and having a respect for people that are gay. Like one thing I'm really happy that women's basketball does is create an environment that is very accepting of people. And some people look at it from the other perspective, like all those basketball girls are all gay. But I look at it as there are tons of people in the world that are gay. people that I used to think I had a good gaydar, and I try not to use that term anymore because I've seen my teammates date women where I'm like, I had no clue. Like, absolutely no clue. So basketball makes it, it's a welcoming community for anybody, pretty much. And so I'm proud that that's the way basketball is. And it's sad that people look at it from the other perspective, because there are guys in the NBA that are gay. There are guys in the NFL that are gay. You know, there are guys, I'm sure there are guys on the college basketball team or football team or swim team that were gay when I was in college. But it's not a comfortable environment for them to be themselves.
It's not an open space for them to be themselves.
Exactly.
It hasn't been made into that open space where they can be open.
Exactly.
Right, because unfortunately people still associate gay with not being strong when it comes to the male gender, which is bizarre. You know what I mean? Like, so that we still have to overcome that as a society.
Because gay or straight, someone can still kick your ass regardless. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. And it's the same thing, you know, on the flip side with women. People associate women who are gay, particularly women who are kind of like butch presenting, who seem to be a little bit more masculine in the way they dress, or maybe they got a shaved head or something like that. They're looked at as too strong, or they're too masculine. You know, some of the most like soft, gentle people I know are some of the most butch women that I've played with, and they are some of the most emotional people that you will ever meet. Yeah. But it's just in the way that they present themselves, and there's a stereotype that goes with it. Like, people are just human beings. Yeah. That's it. And they come with a range of emotions, and you know, but I hope at one point we can get to a point where people don't feel like they have to kind of either live a lie or look at other people and kind of judge them based on, you know, what they look like.
Right. Yeah. Or sexuality should have nothing to do with professionalism. And we should get to that point. Yeah.
Exactly.
So I wanted to dabble back into the pay kind of gap that there is within the two spectrums, that is the males athlete and then the women athlete. And to think of how you play through college, you play super hard through college and don't get paid through college other than a scholarship. And that's understood. And I know that's a big debate, whether these students should be paid or at least paid out at the end of I think you should be paid out by the graduation day. Not only you're given your diploma, but you're given this payout because your names are on these jerseys that are being sold at these stores. And these people can't see you specifically. Right. This university specifically. So there's all these layers. And I find it difficult that women, in particularly in these sports, work super hard, dedicated, put all their energy into it to go professionally and still ends up not being paid in that same aspect that a male professional athlete would be, because you're getting paid. So I know that some women are like at $60,000 a year. Yeah. Right. And you think about that is a low level entry job somewhere, or like a mid-level job, like at an office desk. Right. And you don't put that same, not to say we don't put the same energy in those corporate jobs, but do you think that in the long run, I know you have to do advertising on top of that. Do you think that in the long run, like the debate now talking about paying college students, do you think that's going to change in the coming years? Do you think that's something people are going to be open to, or are we gonna, like, see that happen?
I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen soon, probably in the next 5 years, because it's gotten to a point, especially with social media and the limitations that are on college athletes, on, you know, what you can't sign your jersey and sell it. You can't exchange any of your gear for money. You can't go to speak at a kid's banquet and get paid for it because you're representing the university. And those things, it has to change. And this has been something that particularly, I think it's called it's basically the players union for NCAA. So even when I was in school, I was at Texas from 2008 to 2012. And there we were already, you know, getting mails as athletes, getting pieces of mail as athletes saying, this is what the union is fighting for this year. And every year was always for athletes to get some type of compensation. And, you know, some people argue well, not every school is going to make a ton of money. Not every school is going to have a Zion Williams. You know who that is. Not every school is going to ever sell out a game. Like there are some schools that are just terrible, or they're just in a weird area where basketball isn't, popping. But I think that at some point you have to realize when the coach is getting paid $1 million or a few mil, just in salary, not in endorsements, not in, not outside of that. And that fluctuates based on an athlete's performance. You have to give the athlete some credit. Like literally from the starting, the big time player that's on your team all the way down to the bench, because everybody's participating in practice. Everybody's participating in the game. If only your superstar shows up and the other 10 people are on the bench, you're going to lose the game. So you have to take into account all of those athletes play a part in your salary. All of those athletes play a part in the Nike sponsorships, the Under Armour sponsorships. And with this year, I don't know if you guys know who Zion Williamson is. He plays for Duke. He's like pretty much the next LeBron. Like he's an incredible athlete, an amazing kid, just like it's unreal what he's doing in college basketball. And he's been kind of named the most interesting player of in college basketball this year. Duke, who's the school that he plays for, just renewed their contract with Nike for an obscene amount of money. And it's all based on, Zion got hurt, then he started playing again, and on his game, on the game he came back, he was like 13 for 13, which nobody does. And Nike contract is signed. So
for the university, not for him.
University. To the university. So
didn't his shoe break also? His Nike shoe?
His Nike shoe broke.
Yeah, that's in his foot.
That's the kid that, Nike sent like their team of shoe engineers the next night and fixed up his shoe. But how much promo is that? Like, the Nike shoe broke, and like they sent their, best and Nike shoemakers out there, and now there's that in itself is a whole. That's probably another shoe that they can let out in the summer. Like, the Zion, I don't know.
By the time he gets out of college and sign him a contract. By the time he gets picked up, he gets a Nike contract right out like that.
Exactly.
For what we know, next year he'll have one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He probably already has one in the works, that he doesn't know about. But they're writing up a contract based on every game that he plays. But yeah, at some point you got to look. And even when I was at Texas, I would go in there and like see like Kevin Durant's jersey. I would see Colt McCoy's jersey, who I think he plays for the Browns or something right now. But you see all these guys that you go to school with or you've met before or that went to your school, and they're still selling their jersey, but they're actually not making any money off of what they're selling. Even when you go pro, you don't make money off of that, because every year when you sign your student athlete contract, you say you relinquish all rights to your namesake. Everything you do is for the university. So even Dick Vitale, I don't know if you guys follow like NBA announcers and stuff like that, but Dick Vitale has been announced.
He's like super famous. Like this guy's been doing it forever.
Yeah, like big time. And so for Dick Vitale, he actually said during the Duke game the other day, he said and it was crazy when he was saying it. He basically said there's no way that student athletes should continue to not get paid. Like they have to get money. And he used Zion as an example. He's just like, look at how much attention he's bringing, and he cannot make a dime until he leaves. Not just him, but everybody else on the Duke team, because it's the whole team that they're pushing, but they can't make a dime off of this, and they just sign a multi-million-dollar contract. And it's just, at some point, I think that you should at least be able to, if a school wants you to come do a camp for them, you should be able to do that and make money off of that. If the school wants you to come to their year-end banquet and speak to their kids for $1,000 or $200, let's say you're not Zion, but you're, you're coming off the bench at the 5 position, you should still be able to go and make $500 going and speaking.
Yeah, that's what I think about. It's like the whole other team. Because what's the percentage of actually making it to professional? Right. To be a professional athlete in both women and men. So when you graduate college, if you're a woman who, ended up from going college basketball to professional basketball, you're making the same amount you would have been making out on a regular, with using your degree to a usual position or job, or using that degree, that kind of doesn't encourage you to kind of keep pushing forward. And so if you were to make money for all that work that you've done and put in during your 4 years, right? Because you're using your body, you're wearing down your body, you guys are putting all that in, you know, has a different aspect to it.
And you're giving the school fame. Like, the reason Duke is Duke, aside from being a great school, is they've always had a crazy great basketball team. And everybody knows that. Just like North Carolina, just like all these other colleges that you're just like, everybody knows that they always had a great college team. And people go to that school because of those things. People sponsor those schools. People donate to those schools because they want to be a part of the legacy of those schools. So these athletes are keeping these schools alive. So in a sense, I totally get what you're saying. It's like, they may not make it to professional basketball because the odds are the odds. It is what it is. Numbers are numbers. Exactly. So it's like, at least while I'm here and I'm making your school profitable, you feel me? Like, we should gain something from that. And I see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from.
I think there should be a pot at the end when you leave.
I didn't know about the jersey thing. Like, that's wild. Like, that's wild. Like, you're wearing my last name on the shirt.
Out in the street, and I don't have anything to do with it. That's a little insane.
Yeah. And those two guys I named, those are guys that are big in the professional field. Now, there's still guys that maybe played overseas, or maybe they played in the NBA for a couple of years and then went over and played overseas, or even women that are from those schools, volleyball players, basketball players, soccer players that might have had a big name, and they're still got their stuff in the co-op. And, you know, can you imagine you're going and like looking for jobs, and like maybe you can't find a job, so you're just like working at Starbucks until you can get to where you go, and you go to your university's co-op and your name is on the jersey, and you're like, you know, so it's, I don't know. I hope it will change. I think when it changes, it's going to be really important on how they structure it, because what you don't want is then, I don't know, you don't want to ruin the integrity of the game, which you don't want it to kind of end up like, I don't want to say like the NBA, but you want to still keep, like, everybody loves college sports because the kids play with so much heart, because they know maybe one person will go professionally. Maybe a couple others will go overseas. And then for a lot of schools, there's 340-ish Division I schools. Maybe one of them per team might go overseas, but probably for the other 200, nobody's going overseas. They're just going to go work the next job. Maybe they go overseas for a couple of years like I did, and then come home and work a job. So, you know, to have a pot at the end, like you're saying, or you want to make sure that you don't kind of lose the integrity of the game, because everybody plays with so much heart, because they know this is it. Like, once I get to my 4th year, this is it.
Yeah, right. I think it definitely needs to be something that is after you've done everything, after you've received that diploma, because again, you are being covered in your through scholarship through that. So that's understood, and we know that's a value in itself, that diploma. Yeah. In retrospect, but after all of that, I think there needs to be something at the end of the tunnel once you receive the diploma. Maybe they wait another year, or something like that. But you deserve something for all that work that you put in my retrospect of it.
Or even now, like an athlete like yourself, that was able to find a way to find the profession that kind of tied your two loves together. Tell us a little bit about the company that you work with and how that all came about.
Right. So when I was in New Zealand, the company that sponsored us, the guy that basically runs that particular company and kind of like the hub of companies that sit under that. So he basically ran the team that I played for when I was in New Zealand, when I was in Christchurch. And so with his company called Alifo, which is a commercial furniture chair company, is global. They work in different markets. That company sits under a bigger company called Pathway, which is a charitable trust. So Pathway is a charity based in New Zealand that helps people coming out of prison to basically settle back into society with a new job. So job placements, counseling, retreat center. And then there's another piece of it called Oak Tree, which is a labor hiring basically labor sourcing job where they go and they actually place these guys that are coming out of prison, or women, which they're trying to focus on now, that are coming out of prison with opportunities. And it could be like a 2-week contract, or maybe you finish your 2-week contract and you move into a month. But the whole goal of Pathway is to give people a fresh start and to try to reduce recidivism and try to just help people get back into the swing of things, you know, after being in prison for a short stint. It could be 10 years, it could be, you know, a month, whatever it may be, because I'm sure you guys are probably aware of the system that we have here is very broken and it's crazy. But for New Zealand to be so small, they're actually at the top of like per capita how many people are in prison. So that's a big fuel as to why Pathway was created. So Pathway is like this, is the top, the big dog. That's the charity. So there's different pieces to Pathways. There's a chair furniture company, there's Oak Tree, there's Afusi, which is based in Australia, and they were looking to add another social enterprise. And I had been talking to the president about different ideas that I've had, and so I kept kind of talking about, like, why aren't there teams touring here? How many teams have you guys had? How many college teams have you guys had tour here? Well, maybe 1 or 2. I'm just like, this is insane. Like, you guys have amazing basketball players that are playing here that aren't getting enough exposure. You're right next to Australia, which is a hub. Like Lauren Jackson, Liz Cambridge are some of the biggest basketball players in the world, and they come from Australia. So I'm just like putting 2 and 2 together in my head. Like, it only makes sense. Why don't you get college teams to come out here? And so he finally said, well, you need to put together some type of plan, like write everything down and we'll meet. And so this is probably like 6 months after coming up with this. And then I was also kind of thinking, well, I'm sitting here, I'm playing, I'm coaching, I'm running my own camps. At some point, I don't want to be playing anymore. How can I kind of set myself up? We still want to live overseas, and I want to be involved with basketball. So it kind of like was the puzzle pieces just fit. So met with him and went through everything one morning and what potential costs would be. And he said, okay, I'm going to take this to the board because I like this idea. It's something we could do. And the board approved it. And so so when people will say, well, do you own the company? I don't own the company, but I run this company that sits under a hub for a charity. So that's probably the best I can explain it. But with New Zealand International Basketball Tour, so we focus on bringing the best basketball teams, elite basketball teams, to New Zealand and Australia. And we also focus on creating an opportunity to get exposure for those kids in New Zealand and Australia, particularly in New Zealand because the basketball structure is not as developed as it is here or even in Australia. So those were like the 2 main focuses. And of course, the third focus is to create an extra source of profit for the charity. So what we do is we bring these teams out, 10 to 12 day tours. We set them up. We basically organize, and I say we, but it's me. So I basically organize everything from hotels to airfare to transportation to activities. So we have really good relationships with different vendors in different cities in New Zealand and in Australia. And so we also host the event. So when it comes to organizing the games and organizing the live streaming and things like that, it's just an all-inclusive package that they get whenever they come on a tour with us. And then a lot of times teams will bring their fans. So this past year we worked with the University of Hawaii, and they brought about 15 fans / family with them. So that's a whole nother tour in of itself. They've got a separate itinerary, usually separate transportation. And it's just a lot of fun because you get to see the coaches and the players relax. And, you know, a lot of them aren't on their phones. And so it's a great opportunity for team bonding. They get put into like really fun situations where the coaches can kind of spot the leaders in the group. So when they do stuff like zip lining or, you know, maybe they're walking to a particular area and they kind of see, okay, which player is taking the lead in this? Like which players are making sure that the other kids are okay. Like, who's remembering what we were supposed to be doing at 3:00 today? Like, who's rounding the kids? So it's a good opportunity for the teams to bond and really learn more about their team, and then just kind of get a chance to get away and go to another country, learn about another culture, and then play against professional, semi-professional teams, all-star teams that are from other places. But it's just it gives you a well-rounded experience, and it helps kind of propel you into that season. So it's got a plus for everybody involved.
And what does it take for a team to be able to participate in this?
So with teams, right now we've mainly been working with Division I teams, but I'm working on opening that up to Division II, Division III. For if a team wanted to travel, they would just need to contact me or go to the website www.nzibt.org. But usually you can travel once every 4 years. So definitely check your schedule, make sure to see when's the last time that you traveled, and then basically get the ball rolling. We start to figure out what exactly works for your team. So we have preset packages, but a lot of times we start there and then we customize it based on what your team needs, the schedule that you're looking for. Do you want it more basketball based? Do you want it just play maybe 2 or 3 games and really focus on team bonding? Maybe you have a whole bunch of freshmen coming in, or maybe you have 3 or 4 players that were hurt the whole last year, so they weren't really involved in team activities. So you want to focus it more on that as opposed to, only on playing, 5 or 6 games or something like that. So, yeah.
I think that's awesome. And so you'll be there you're with them also when they're doing this traveling, kind of guiding them along.
Yeah, so I travel with the team, so I'll usually get to New Zealand about 2 weeks before, just to make sure everything else on the ground is going right. And then there'll be another NZIBT representative with me, usually my assistant. And then if there's a separate group of fans, there'll be a specific tour guide for them. So yeah.
I love this. I love what you're doing and kind of making sure that all the other, because it's for college athletes, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Mostly for that, are open to different opportunities, options, and things like that they'll see in other countries, and then as well as the team bonding.
And they have like a taste of what it would be like if they actually got to play overseas. Like, it's at least like exposure and understanding that there's another world out there. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah.
What's like the most fun excursion that you can do in New Zealand for those of us who want to just go out there?
I know, right?
I think my favorite is, so there's this island. So there's this island off of the coast of Auckland, and you can get there by ferry. It takes about 30 minutes to get there. It's called Waiheke Island. And this is just like this little small cute island. And it actually has a rainforest in the middle of it that is like thousands of years old. So the Maori people, which are the native people of New Zealand, used to, of course, they were all over New Zealand, but in particular, you can go ziplining through this rainforest, which is awesome. So there's like 3 zip lines you go through, and they get faster and faster with each one that you go through. And then you have a nature hike on the way up, and you're literally sitting under this like massive rainforest. So you can barely see the sun. Like, it's just trees everywhere. And then you learn about like the way that the Maori people lived before Europeans showed up and colonization happened and all of that. So that is my favorite thing, because it combines learning about the history and learning about the native people of New Zealand, but also it's just a lot of fun. Like, you're flying through the zip line, and you're going 2 people at a time down 2 zip lines. So they're usually racing each other down the zip line. So that's one place you have to go. And there's a little town called Aniroa, which is like a 15-minute drive down from the zip line, and there's like shopping and art galleries, and you can go paddleboarding and jet skiing, and it's right on the beach. Like, it's just stunning. When you get a chance, look up Waiheke Island, Waiheke Island, and it's amazing. You have to go there if you're gonna go there.
Well, now I know who to hit up once I figure out the plan of how I'm going to get to New Zealand or Australia.
Yeah,
again, that flight. I need rest stops.
I promise you.
No, I'll need rest stops.
You got to take off 2 weeks of work. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like a commitment. Like, yeah, it's like, it takes
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
No, it's definitely one of those you need a day when you land
Exactly.
to figure your clock out,
Mm-hmm.
and then you need a 2 or 3 days back to put yourself back in order. Like
Yeah,
that's what that kind of trip is like.
definitely. It's almost like when you get there, you know, for the teams, it's a bit different because they're there for a small amount of time. We get them going that next morning and always talk to the coaches about how different suggestions on how to tweak tweak everybody's sleeping schedule like a day or two before, and then on the plane, like make sure you wake them up for this amount of time. That way, when they're there, we get them up. If they arrive the night before, we're up at 8 a.m. because we've got to get them on that time zone as soon as possible. But if you're just going for leisure, you're going to have fun, I still suggest doing that, but you're going to sleep for about 14 hours. It happens every time I go back and forth because your body is just like, what just happened?
Right.
Body is like, I do not like you today.
Yeah. The plane ride is fine. It's really sleeping and you're like, oh, it's the next day. It's like after the next day.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's an interesting feeling that your body goes through, for sure.
Yeah.
So shout out to all of our listeners and let them know how to find you on your Instagram or all your social handles. Also, again, give out the website for the program if they're interested or want more details.
Definitely. So the Instagram for New Zealand International Basketball Tours is at NZIBT. Our Twitter handle is at NZIBT_2017. You can definitely visit us at our website, www.nzibt.org. All of my contact information is there if you're interested, even if you're not a college team, if you have a high school team, or maybe you've got just a rec team and you guys think it would be fun to travel, definitely let me know, hit me up, and I'd be happy to send through some packages and kind of talk you through it. But yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Now, what advice would you give to anyone who has a big idea and has that contact with a person that owns a company, and just like you did, like you went for it and you said, look, I have an idea and I think it's great, and now look, it's a business. What advice would you give a person that has that contact and has that idea and how to overcome the fear? What advice would you give them?
You know, if you have that idea and you're passionate about it, like make sure something you're passionate about it, and start to make notes, start to look at the market, look at, is there anybody else doing what you want to do? If so, what are they doing? What are they charging? What type of services are they providing? What's the feedback? Do people really like what they're doing? Are they the number one person or the number one company in that arena? Or is this a brand new niche that nobody really has ventured into? And do your research, talk it through with that particular person. I was really lucky enough to where like his daughter was on our development team, and so he was always around, and he was the main one that coordinated Stephen and I moving out there. So I had a good enough relationship with him where I felt comfortable beforehand to just kind of, you know, go back and forth and just kind of say, hey, from this standpoint, what do you think? Like, do you think this would work? Is this something that you guys would be interested in? So there was probably 5 or 6 conversations of just, you know, I see this gap here, this is an amazing place, or this could be potentially a way to do this. But it was months in the making, and then actually sitting down and saying, okay, if this is an idea that might work for both of us, let's sit down and do it. But what's the worst that's going to happen? It's kind of like with basketball. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to miss a shot, and then you just try. So go for it. Like, have your idea, even if it's not fully developed. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so sometimes I have to remind myself, sometimes even when ideas aren't fully developed, it's still good to kind of brainstorm, pick somebody else's brain, and, you know, follow people in the industry, find their Instagram, sign up for their subscription stuff, and just do as much research as you can, but just go for it. Like, you just got to jump into it, because if you never jump into it and you spend too much time thinking about it, it's not going to happen, and somebody else is going to do it.
There you go. So shoot your shot, everybody. Shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot. I'm not talking about in the DMs.
But thank you so much, Ashley. You are a sweetheart.
Oh, one more question for Ashley. Since we are in March Madness and we were talking college basketball and you have a history with that, what is your top bracket or like your winning team? Do you have one?
Okay. So I've got Duke taking it all.
Okay.
For sure, on the men's side. On the women's side, my team lost on Friday. So this is a little soft spot because they were my top team.
Gotcha.
I really like outside of Texas, because if Texas was winning, had won on Friday, they would be my number one. But I really like South Carolina. I really love what they've done with their program. And their coach is awesome. She's hilarious, and she's also super inspirational. So I like them. Man, that might be my favorite for this year. So I'd probably say Duke on the men's side, South Carolina on the women's side. But yeah, it's interesting this year because there's not a lot of Cinderellas on either side. So I'm curious to see what happens over
How it turns out.
Yeah, I'm going to the Final Four for the women in Tampa in a few weeks. So I'm excited to see what happens there.
Nice. All right. Well, there you have it, guys. Well, if you didn't do your bracket already, you're kind of late, but
there's still some last minute bets. You know what I mean?
Some last minute bets to put in there, I guess. But there you go. You have it. Thank you again, Ashley, for being on the show. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And keep us posted on your podcast.
Yes, I will. I got to shoot my shot.
Sure.
Get it done.
There you go.
That's a great name right there.
It is. I know. I had another name, but that's
I think we have a winner.
I'm taking notes right now.
Thank you for joining us, Ashley. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And good luck to you guys. I know you guys are doing big things, so keep going. You guys are super inspirational. So,
thank you.
I'm excited to be a part of this. This
very cool
ecosystem that is podcasters, women podcasters.
Yes,
absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, my love. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
So yeah, it was so cool having Ashley, and it was really cool. She was our first female athlete.
I love that. That was because you never really think, you hear about all these things with college athletes and women athletes, and the unfair pay gap. That's a real world thing. You think about just women pay gaps, or we talk about the corporate side, but think about these athletes who put their body physically into something and not getting paid, and then how much they get paid in the WNBA compared to the NBA.
And why does the rest of the world see more value in it than we do? What is that?
Right. And as Americans, we usually see a lot of value in our own, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to put that American dollar into everything. Why is it that internationally? Yeah, I've never thought about it in that sense. So it's really, hopefully those things change.
Right.
And we start focusing a little bit more on these women athletes who are here, who are amazing.
Absolutely.
And shout out to Seattle Storm puts that, I mean, because I live in a city, like a center hub city, that stuff is everywhere. All the women's soccer and the women's basketball team is plastered throughout this entire city throughout the season.
That's awesome. I'm happy to hear that.
So I think when you live more in a city hub, you'll see it more. Maybe you yourself will see it more. Does Miami have a women's team?
Yes. No, they don't, but New York does.
New York Liberty.
Yeah, they did have the women's NBA team. And I'm not saying that it was super popular, but it was relevant. You know what I'm saying? People knew of the games. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Yeah. And we all know Lisa Leslie.
Right? Exactly. Who doesn't? Right.
Who doesn't? That's where you grow up with the Olympic women athletics. That's where she originally kicked off from. So it's a great conversation. She was wonderful to have on. And hopefully these athletes start getting recognized.
And shout out to tall girls. Shout out to the tall girls. Why not?
Super tall girls.
Yes.
Who still put on their heels and are out here giving it to you.
Yes. For all you tall girls out there, there's tall guys out there. Her man is 6'9", ladies and gentlemen.
Woo.
So that is beautiful. I love when tall people are together.
They must have saw each other and said oh. It must have been the moment they saw each other. It must have been this is the perfect match. That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. And now it is time for our recommendations of the week. Diana, what do you got for us?
Well, since our conversation was international, I'm going to keep it international. A little secret about me, I really enjoy watching foreign shows on Netflix. That's something I don't know, I've gotten very into it. I like to watch a lot of shows from Spain, particularly. I think that their shows are actually super well written. They have great scripts. Even last year when I was recommending Casa de Papel, which is Money Heist, I love that show. I've seen a bunch of them. I've seen a few shows from Colombia, and I like Spanish. I feel like it also allows me to sharpen my Spanish, because you know that once you are around it more, you kind of keep the skill alive. And it's one of my priorities to continue to speak Spanish at a high level, because it's a tool and I know how powerful it is to be bilingual. So I make an effort to do whatever I can to allow myself to keep it fresh in my mind, because at the end of the day, this is the United States. And unless you live in Miami or like in Washington Heights or California, you know, like you're not going to be around Spanish. So it's like, it's nice to like kind of just keep your ear, you know what I'm saying? So I like it for that reason as well. For those of you who want to kind of don't know how to keep the Spanish alive, that's a little tip that I'll give. But with that being said, there's a show on Netflix called Made in Mexico. It is a reality show. It is literally The Hills, Marley. It is The Hills, okay? It is The Hills in Spanish.
Already.
And I'm like, this is perfect. Like, this is like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, there's this charm about The Hills that really resonated with our generation.
Yeah.
Like, really enjoyed that reality show.
Yeah.
And this show is like what's reminded me the most to it. They're very, very, very rich Mexican kids that live in Mexico City. And like, they're just basically sharing their life. Of course, you know, there's storylines and drama and nonsense like any other reality show. But what I think I like the most about it, and what I want people to take away from this, is that the stereotype of what a Mexican is so wrong in the United States. So wrong. Yeah. And I say that because shout out to my Mexicans. I love you guys. And I have a lot of really close friends that are Mexican in California. And they have been such a great exposure to the other side for me that I love to share that with people. And, you know, especially with the media and everything that we've been watching, and we have this really, really, really unrealistic interpretation of what Mexicans are and what they are for our country and where they come from, and that they're all poor and they're all criminals. That none of that is true. Like, it really isn't. And I'm not even trying to get into that conversation. You know what I mean? I'm just saying this, that it kind of opens your eyes to a whole demographic of Mexicans that are extremely, extremely well off. And
on a whole nother level of well off.
A whole nother level
of well off.
Right. And like, they live in this major city. You know what I mean? It's not
Mexico
like
City.
Mexico City is like a major city. So it's like, you just, I don't know. It's interesting to see that. And I like to see anyone from a Latino culture just showing that the only difference is that we speak a different language. That's it. Yeah. Like, we all are into the same things. We all have our regular drama. We all like to dress. We all like to go out. Like, it's just, we just speak a different language. Yeah. That's it.
I love that. You know, I'm a reality show junkie. Yeah. So I'm definitely going to tune into that one. There is also, the Bravo has a version called Mexican Dynasties.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
And they speak Spanglish on the show.
And Made in Mexico as well. They have subtitles for those of you who are afraid of stuff. But they do speak Spanglish throughout the whole show, because that's how they grow up. Like, they speak English and Spanish. So it's just very realistic. Yeah.
So Bravo has a similar show that I just started watching. So that's interesting. I'll tune into the Netflix one. But I do love that. I mean, us as Latinos, we are aware that there's, just like America, there's different variations of classism, society, those kind of things. And that happens on all these other countries as well. Like, everywhere has classism, you know, society issues, those kind of things. And now people are being exposed to this whole other side of Mexico that people didn't even know existed. No one aware. So I love that. And that's hilarious to me, because I love a good spicy drama.
Yeah. And you know, the thing about Latinos is that we're more, how can I say this? We're more comfortable with expression, and we're more comfortable with physical touch, and we're more comfortable with gratitude, because we were all brought up in that type of environment. For example, what you're going to notice is that, remember, they are well off, and they have, like, you know, women that work in the house that are like, you know, the nannies, and they're maids, they clean, they're cooks. The way they communicate with the staff is so realistic, because I know, because my family has people that work for them in the Dominican Republic. Not because we're rich, but because it's just the way it is, because the world country, that's another conversation. So the way you communicate with the people that work in your house, you treat them with respect. You know what I mean? And they sit down and they eat with you. And like, if it's Thanksgiving and you're having a meal, you give them food too. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not like, go away, you work for me. It's kind of like, you're a part of our family because you're helping us run this world. So I think that that's awesome. Like, it just shows you a side of us that is very honest. Like, we're just warm people.
Yeah.
And the men are affectionate, and like, it's just the way we are. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm just being very Latina right now. This is how we are.
Be all Latina that you want to be, girl.
Yeah.
I love that. So definitely tuning in and checking that one out on Netflix. And that gives you a little break from all the other shit that Netflix is too much sometimes.
Yeah.
But it gives you a little break from all there. But thank you for that recommendation.
Yeah, it's like the Cheesecake Factory. The menu has way too many options. Like, it's like, I don't even know what to eat. You know what I mean? So it's like
I don't even want to eat no more. There's too many. I've done that. I was like, let me go back to YouTube and just do something.
Yeah.
I'm fine, because it's a lot. My recommendation this week is packing. So I recently went on a short trip for work to San Francisco. Beautiful city, by the way. And I've learned how to minimize on my packing and how to pack lighter, or neater, should I say. If you haven't seen the Marie Kodrome, I believe her name is, which is like, she's like a lifestyle guru who kind of helps everyone tidy up, is the name of the show on Netflix, how to kind of store things properly, kind of get rid of things. And so I realized when packing this week, I made outfits first, and then looked at those outfits and decided if that's what I was going to wear, and literally left with 3 pairs of pants and like 3 shirts. Just put it in there. Did not overpack. So the suggestion for people is to kind of just lay out your clothing, lay out your outfits, what you know you're going to wear for what day, what you're going to reuse, and lightly pack. And so I felt so much better, so much less overwhelmed, right? When I had to fly back or had to put my stuff back, things like that. So a recommendation is to lay out your outfits before packing. I've learned
that's a really good one, because you know how sometimes you'll bring like, oh, just in case, let me get this shirt, just in case, let me get the sweater, just in case. And then all of a sudden at the airport, they're like, your bag is too heavy, you need to take stuff out.
Exactly. Or like, why do you have 3 bags? Like, it's just complicated. Or you have to figure out what you're going to stuff in the backpack that's going to be your purse, so that you have only 1 bag that you carry. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I minimized all that, made some outfits, and that's all I took. Other than a whole pile of underwear in case I get stuck.
Oh, me too. I always take more underwear than necessary. That is so funny. Oh my God. I always take more underwear. I'm like, what if I'm stranded out here? Like, I need underwear.
Exactly. Although you can always just buy a pack at the nearest Target, but still, it's just in case I get stranded or stuck at the airport.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you get stuck at the airport, something happens, I gotta have extra underwear. I probably shower 3 times. I'll put on the same pants throughout the day, but I will definitely have clean underwear. Right. So recommendation of how to just pack lighter is just laying out those outfits, laying out what exactly you need, and putting that in there. And that was just great.
And put the underwear in your shoes, guys.
Oh.
That way you don't create a crease in the shoe. And then that takes up less space. So like, if you have extra underwear, since like I do extra underwear, I put the underwear in the shoe.
I never thought about that. Oh my God. That is a great suggestion. Yeah. Wow. Mind blown. Little emoji. I never thought about that. Yeah. She was up in here too. All right. Look at that. We left with 3 recommendations today.
And all of it has to do with traveling internationally. You see how we do this, guys? We keep a well-rounded episode here, okay?
Oh, nice themes throughout the episode. I love that. Well, again, do you have any announcements for this week?
Well, guys, as always, make sure to please follow me at my Instagram at IamDianaC_. Make sure to follow my business page at Show Me Productions on Facebook or Show Me Productions on Instagram. I am going to continue hosting networking events for women. I have a networking event coming up on Wednesday at Ball and Chain here in Miami. So you could do a little dancing, a little karaoke, and a little bit of getting to know the ladies.
That's also international.
Yeah, Ball and Chain. There you go. They have a lot of live salsa there, so it's like a really popular, iconic place here in Miami. But I'll see you guys there on Wednesday. Also, Startup Safari is coming up in May, and it starts with the Vision series is still up and on and popping. Make sure to look that all up. All you got to do is just go to my page, and all that info is there. So please follow me at Show Me Productions on Instagram and on I am Diana C _.
Awesome. And you can follow me at Love LUV MARLEY _ Love Marley. Upcoming for me, I just came back from a huge gamers conference. Y'all gamers are really out there 100% in love with your products and what you do. So shout outs to all of y'all that I met out there. It was a great blast. Right now, I need rest after that long week, but up and coming things are happening. So I'll keep you guys updated on that as well.
The gaming industry is popping.
A beast. If there's something that you have not tapped into, ladies and gents, become a developer, an engineer. Get to know your software and your products. It's out there.
Coins.
Get yourself some coins.
Yeah.
And once again, thank you all for listening. Don't forget to reach out to us on freshmondayspod@gmail.com and on Instagram, as well as on Facebook and our Twitter. And we look forward to seeing you guys next Monday.